So as far as scaling remote teams is concerned, this is when you really start to take things to the next level. So today we have a team close to 30 that's a mix of Australia, US, Ukraine, and Philippines-based staff. We're not funded. I haven't sold equity. I haven't taken any outside capital. We don't have any debt. We've grown organically. I've got 100% ownership. I don't report to anyone. I don't have to do any profit shares. And I control the systemology business. We've built, in my opinion, a very special business that impacts the lives of thousands of business owners around their world and their teams as well. So our reach is huge. And I don't believe that it would be possible to have done what we've done without building remote staff and remote teams, particularly based out of the Philippines. So this is very much a proven path, and I've seen it many times before that I know you can kind of follow in similar footsteps. That's part of why I tried to get some of the colleagues and clients to hop on and share some of those stories so you can go, oh, yes, I can see this is possible for me. Starts with a systems champion and building a culture of systems. You build this culture of documenting process and delegating down to less skilled, lower cost team members. That frees up your highest value team members to work on higher value tasks. That idea of documentation doesn't make those team members less valuable. It makes it more, those high skilled team members makes them more valuable. It's important that you let the team understand this, because as especially if you've got a local team and you start talking about offshoring and things like that, they're going to be worried if they're going to be losing positions. And for me, I now hire more local staff than I probably would have without the support of the Philippines team, because the Philippines team has enabled me to grow and scale. We would have not been able to grow and scale as much as we have. So I always let the team know that as we delegate down, that frees them up to then work on the next big problem or the next thing that we're working on. So that actually makes them more valuable. I want my highest skilled team members working on things that don't have systems and processes in place. And as your team starts to grow, you'll start to attract higher and higher quality team members. And if you can pair high quality team members with highly skilled administrative assistants that make them more productive, you create that competitive advantage that I was talking about earlier. And as your business starts to grow, you'll want to get more team members on board. So I wanted to give you a couple of options for that. We talked about recruiting through Upwork. Another great way to do this is, we know birds of a feather flock together, and that means A players know other A players. More recently, some of our best staff have come from referrals from existing team members. So you ask your team, do you know any rock stars? You let them know that you're looking for the best of the best, and that can be a really great way to grow. Another area that we need to kind of touch on, because James talked about how and where he's growing his team, and also because it can help you grow and scale much more. This might be 2 or 3 moves down the path for some of you, but it's leveraging off a BPO. So a BPO, this idea of business process outsourcing, companies that really specialize in building and managing teams based out of the Philippines. What they do, they recruit, train, and manage team members on your behalf. And we see this all the time with some of the big corporates. It's the call centers, the customer service, the tech support, medical transcription, admin, software development, where they shift all of those back office tasks where there might not be direct client engagement, and sometimes there is, and they build teams offshore because it's more effective. And there are companies that this is basically what they do. And really, when you start to look down this rabbit hole, the only limit is your imagination. There are some BPOs that are more full service, and they'll manage everything. They'll source for you, they'll do HR, they'll provide equipment, they'll manage the team member, they'll do absolutely everything. And generally speaking, you pay a premium. It's kind of like the team member's rate plus some. Then there are other BPOs that might provide less oversight. where maybe they help you to recruit and they pay for the office space, but then it's up to you to manage them. And that's kind of like what James was talking about. He hasn't got a fully serviced BPO. He's got one where they provide the location and a little bit of the infrastructure and a location. He pays less money on the management, but it means that he has to have the right structures in place to be able to manage the team. But understanding this world, I think, as I said, the sky's the limit here. There's even BPOs that are specifically designed for specific types of Australian businesses or businesses around the world. So, for example, like literally last week on Friday, I was invited to speak at an event called TOA up in Queensland. And what they do is they provide back office services for Australian-based accountants. They've got over 3,000 staff based in the Philippines and hundreds of Australian clients where they train up VAs in Xero and Australian accounting law and bookkeeping. They train them up over there and then they pair them with accountants here in Australia to provide those back-end services. That industry for an accounting business has been completely turned on its head. Really now, a lot of accountancy, it's a bit more of a commodity, and the way that an accountant needs to stand out is by adding value-added services on top of what it is that they're doing. And if you're not looking at that offshore back-end component in the accounting world, generally speaking, you're not very competitive. And that's just one example of this. It's a huge industry. I did a little Google beforehand of the BPO industry out of the Philippines over the past couple of decades. It's got over $30 billion in annual revenue and employs over 1.3 million people. And there are different key sectors as well. Healthcare, finance, technology, retail, manufacturing, a lot of that has gone to the Philippines. And it's something that I think as you grow and you're ready to scale, something that you might consider. I remember about 10 years ago, I did a BPO tour with a guy called Mike O'Hagan. There's the link to an interview that I had with him 10 years ago. But Mike O'Hagan owned a company called Mini Movers and it got hit by the GFC. He was just on the verge of bankruptcy and he took the risk, moved the entire back end operations to the Philippines. And to cut a long story short, he ended up saving the company. He built up this little mini empire before he ended up selling it and then fell in love with the Philippines, moved over there, made it his mission to expose Australian business owners to the opportunities that are over there. He started up a little tour called Mike's Manila Tours, and that's where I met him. I went on a tour with him for a few days and we visited a whole range of these BPOs. We went to those high-end, fully serviced ones out of Manila, and we went to the backyard, Philippines, locally run, like literally it was in someone's house. And they had team members that are circled around the table, and it was back end sort of business process outsourcing for offshore companies, and it was quite an eye opener. I think there's literally probably no better way to learn this than on the ground. I thought it'd be fun to share the interview, even though that was from 9 years ago. I think a lot of the ideas still hold true. And Mike, it was very much a pioneer in that industry. And while he's retired now, he's still involved in numerous businesses over in the Philippines and BPOs as well. I hope you enjoyed that clip. Just a heads up, it was a snippet taken from the Business Systems Accelerator program, which is the world's first training for systems champions to help you build a systems-driven organization. If you'd like to find out more about the program, head over to systemology.com/BSA, and I'll see you in the next video.